Hey, what's up, guys? Riv here. So today we're going to be talking about The Last of Us Season 2, which is currently airing on HBO Max. We just concluded Episode 4, and just like the other episodes, it was accompanied by some more controversy that has, of course, led to the increasingly negative user scores regarding this second season. And now with another round of controversy, well, just like the other episodes, the journalists and the shills have continued to come out of the woodwork to make every single defense for this series and to label all of the upset viewers as incels, losers, idiots, etc. Now, of course, we have to start off with the second episode, which contained a very infamous scene from the franchise. Yes, there's going to be spoilers in this video in case you're not aware, but this is the scene where Joel is beaten to death by Abby with a golf club. This is something that wouldn't surprise you if you were familiar with the game, or at least with the controversy that came with the game. This was a very heavily disliked scene. People were not happy with this, and the people who have seen or played the game before, when they watched this second season, they knew this was coming. They were maybe hoping they would go a different direction with this, but obviously that was not the case. And then for everyone else who was watching this episode, you know, the sort of normies, the people who were not familiar with the video game or the controversy surrounding it, they were blindsided by this, which is not too surprising, even though they tried to humanize characters like Abby a lot more in the series than they did in the video game, and people were not happy. Overall, people were very upset about this decision because to many, Joel was the most interesting character in the series for them, and they thought Pedro Pascal was doing a great job and was the anchor of everything going on with this show. However, Neil Druckmann, he said they nailed it. Right? He said they were able to successfully recapture the moment of Abby and Joel's confrontation. I mean, yeah, they did. People were disappointed, just like the first time. I don't really understand what he was expecting here, but it seems like they want to stick with the core of what the video game was doing, and this is an example of that just not translating into anything really positive. Also, again, with Neil Druckmann, you have to revisit Intergalactic. This is going to be an absolute disaster, but just wanted to remind you guys that this is coming down the pipe for Naughty Dog. But, of course, as soon as that episode started getting flack and negative reception, the journalists came out of the woodwork to start making defenses for this series and to attack any of the people leaving negative reviews. You can see this absolute banger of an article unpacking the toxic troll backlash to The Last of Us Season 2. There's this one little life hack that no one ever talks about. I practice it regularly. It has drastically improved my life. No, I'm not an influencer reading an AI-written script to sell $3,000 lip liner. I'm a real human and thought catalog writer who wants to tell you, just don't watch. Yeah, okay, these are the people saying just don't watch. They're the same ones who will cancel anything they determine is problematic and judge you for watching it. They do not take their own advice on that. But anyways, they say, yes, that's the life hack. If you don't like something, don't watch it. You don't need to watch the entirety of the episode of the show you don't like. You also don't have to watch the rest of the series after that. In fact, you don't even need to register for a Rotten Tomatoes account and then write 3-paragraph reviews on the show's Rotten Tomatoes page. You can just not watch. You can close the tab on your browser or TV, open a meditation app, and then release the chaotic evil from your body. You can't make yourself a smoothie and watch Game of Thrones up until season 7. You can go to therapy, you incel. Oh boy. Being an incel is when you criticize an HBO Max series. I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous, right? They're trying to basically tell you, if you don't like it, go away, but also don't fully consume the product before you make your determination of whether it's good or not. That seems a bit contrived coming from what's supposed to be a journalist, and they're getting mad because people are leaving detailed reviews criticizing some of these episodes. Very hypocritical, but of course, people are responding very negatively. This is the Metascore now. It's dropped all the way down to 3.9 for users. This was much higher. I believe it was in the 6s. It's down to 3.9, and it's dwindling down with each episode after the first one completed. And of course, that's not the only thing they're losing. They're also losing viewers. As you see, The Last of Us loses viewers following the major character death of Joel in Season 2. And that's not surprising at all. Like I said, there's a lot of people watching this who are not people who played the video game. So they did not see this scene coming, and it left them completely baffled. They're like, what's going to happen next after this? That is the primary conversation from people who did not play the game. They're saying, what happens next? Why did they kill Joel? Where do we go from here? Why is there so much space left for the rest of the season? What are they going to do? Well, that's just the way it is, and unfortunately, people really didn't like it. You can see the ratings reflect that. You can see, according to Programming Insider, The Last of Us Season 2 premiere drew in nearly 1 million linear viewers in the United States, but that very next week, the number dropped to 643,000 fans, and that is a staggering 31.5% drop. Now, here's the interesting thing, right? A lot of people knew this controversial scene was going to pop up in the second episode, but they still didn't tune in enough. And also because of the, well, poor reception in the episode, I guess there wasn't a lot of hype. However, there was an interesting rebound in the third episode with 768,000 viewers because people were curious. Where are they going to go from here? How are they going to pick up the pieces and get this back? And of course, even though it did rebound compared to the second episode, it's still far short of the first episode in terms of viewers. And of course, HBO Max doesn't release their streaming numbers, so we don't know what's going on there, but this is just a reference. And a lot of people are now saying, how is Ellie and Bella Ramsey, the actress playing her, how are they going to carry the load here? How are they going to pick up for the slack that is now created because Joel is gone? And I always find this funny. I see a lot of these Photoshop pictures of Ellie, and it's like, do you even have to Photoshop when like these are real shots from the show? I mean, this is crazy. But anyways, the big focus now since Joel's gone in the latest episodes is the romantic relationship between Ellie and Dina. And here's the thing. It's like, yeah, they had to try to make something to fill the void here, but there's not that stark contrast of personalities that existed between Joel and Ellie, right? And even those were kind of watered down for the sake of this show, which is reflected in this relationship as well. It's like the show is petrified of presenting characters as unlikable. Not poorly written, but unlikable. They make these two just way too likable with very few rough patches around them. Their relationship pretty much instantly succeeds, and it's one that has very few bumps in the road. It just kind of works. And that feels very, well, stale. And it's something that even Kotaku, of all people, can recognize in this article. Yes, hell hath frozen over. Even they recognize that the relationship seems a little too perfect and that they were too afraid to make some of these characters rough around the edges, to give them flaws, to make them unlikable because they want everyone to like them so desperately, especially in the absence of Joel. But of course, following the third episode, we're re-exploring this or going out and exploring this relationship between the two. The trolls struck again, ladies and gentlemen. I can't believe this. The next week, we have another article saying this. The Last of Us Season 2's review bombing isn't limited to Rotten Tomatoes. As you can see, despite the efforts of certain platforms to prevent review bombing, trolls still seem to be getting away with it. The latest victim is HBO's The Last of Us, which, like the video game it's based on, has been targeted by individuals who seem to have a problem with women being spotlighted. Absolutely amazing. No accountability for anyone in this situation as long as they're a woman or a minority, because journalists don't want to allow any criticism against them. And I think that's infantile. You're infantilizing these actresses. Here's the thing. I don't think any of these actresses that we're talking about here are bad actresses. I think they're fine. It's just the writing isn't good for season 2. That's the reality, and that's why people are not feeling this show as much as was anticipated, okay? And that's why people are upset, shielding it behind the fact that you see this spotlight on women. Absolutely ridiculous. But they can see down here, they also mention that the trolls can't be contained to just one platform. They also messed with the show's rating on Metacritic, and we saw that already. But they continue on in this article also saying this. Are you noticing a trend? Because they're criticizing female actresses. Any film or show with even mildly progressive politics seems to irritate the sort of people who are likely to spend time venting about these things online. Which is very interesting because, yeah, a lot of people don't want to see a lot of politics and progressive stuff in a show like this, which there's tons of it. A lot of this is very progressive in nature, and that's honestly what they're falling on the hardest in the absence of Joel. They're going that direction even harder because they're trying to make up for the slack. They have to fill the void somehow, and that's really all the identity they have with this show. Now, before we move on to episode 4 and some of the controversy involved in that, we have to talk about the critical drinker. Now, I'm sure many of you are familiar with this popular YouTube channel. He reviews a lot of shows and movies, and he has a pretty good influence, right? There were several people in various industries who have come out to mention by name people like the critical drinker as a very big scare for some of these companies because they have a much bigger influence than even mainstream media outlets. His determination to watch something or to not watch something has an influence on people. He holds a lot of power in the eyes of millions of people who will take his advice at least to some level of seriousness. And that is a lot stronger of an impact than the mainstream media, who can't be trusted in any sort of a way because they're paid shills or they're a bunch of woke activists. You can't trust what they're saying, but people see some honest reviews from people like the critical drinker and they take them very seriously and actually hold some weight to his opinion. Now, why are we talking about him? Well, he got hit with a copyright strike from Home Box Office Inc., which of course would be HBO. But of course, with any of these, there's always the possibility someone is impersonating them. But in this case, that doesn't seem to be what's going on. In fact, the critical drinker would call this out directly on X here if it ever loads for some reason. What are we doing? Hey, at HBO, are you guys going to unblock my Last of Us video or continue to shamelessly abuse the YouTube copyright system like a bunch of pussies? Because really, you're just proving how afraid you are of actual criticism. And lo and behold, wouldn't you believe it, after he spoke out, it's magically back. And that's exactly how it should be. This is why people should speak out against this stuff and rally behind people being suffering the abuse of the copyright system by these big companies who are afraid of being criticized. And that's what happened here. And you can see too, the video is back up. I believe it had like 600K before it was taken down. It kind of killed the momentum there for a second, but now it's bounced back, nearly doubling that view total in the last less than 24 hours. And if you scan through the video or watch it yourself, there is nothing here that is not fair use. I mean, he's been doing this for years and years. Do you think he doesn't understand the copyright system? What he's doing is transformative reviews with clips playing in the background as he is allowed by YouTube. Unfortunately, they abuse the copyright system and take down this video. And it's not too surprising because Naughty Dog has done this before. They're infamous for taking down YouTube videos that are critical of their franchises. They've even struck down people who are simply talking about their shows, not even showing clips in the background or using transformative commentary like that. Just people talking about the show like I am in this video without playing actual clips. That's how insecure they are about criticism. Now, let's get to episode 4. It's another filler arc type episode. That's what it feels like. But the end scene here is what everyone's talking about, where there's this dialogue here where, of course, Dina reveals she's having a baby. And let's establish this isn't Star Wars The Acolyte. There's no lesbian space witches using the Force to create a child. She was pregnant before she met Ellie. But Ellie responds to that by saying, I'm going to be a dad. And people were pissed about this, thinking like now this character's trans or something. That is not the case. I guess it's a joke because she is the butchier girl in this relationship, and I don't think that's like a outlandish thing to say. I think most people would agree on that. That's the joke being played here, but some people don't really find it that funny, or they think it's very awkward. But also, this ends seconds later with them rolling around on the ground and finger blasting each other. And that's how the episode ends, and people were like, that's a strange way to react to that set of news. But anyways, whether you like that or not, or the direction of that episode, or what's coming up in the upcoming 5th episode this week, that's up to you. But for now, there's a lot of controversy surrounding the show. But don't worry, after episode 4, the journalists, they come and save the day once again. The Last of Us episode 4 is being... What's happening? Review bombed. Oh, it's being review bombed again. That's 3 episodes in a row. 3 out of 4? Oh my goodness. Yeah. But this time it's not review bombed by incels or anything like that. It's being review bombed by idiots. Yes, you're an idiot if you don't like this episode. It's absolutely insane. Have these journalists considered, maybe, just maybe, people don't like this show. maybe, just maybe, following Joel's death and everything that's transpired since then, maybe the show just isn't hitting the same way. Is it really that crazy? Well, unfortunately, these journalists have an agenda to push. They're activists. They will do anything to protect this show because it's checking a lot of boxes for them, and that's what they're rolling with. And unfortunately, they look like a bunch of, you guessed it, idiots. But that's going to do it for this video. As always, feel free to share your thoughts about today's topics in the comment section down below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.